welcome to the Sigma Show. I am your host, Sigma. This is episode 33. This is the Jesus episode, right? That's how that works.
Oh my gosh.
Is that how old he was? I thought
Right?
it was
I think
32, but I think you're
was it
right.
32? You know what?
Let me
Who's
Google
got a
this.
Bible?
Oh my gosh.
Check this information. Anyway,
On the holy day.
before I get into who's joining me and those voices that you've heard, we're going to real quick go over what topics we'll be talking about today. Up first, the MPD group has published their monthly report, and there are some interesting numbers that we're going to get into in terms of hardware sales. So we'll speculate as to what that could mean for the future of the console wars, etc. After that, there's a report that Netflix wants to add games to its library within the year, full-fledged games. So what could that mean, especially in a world that includes Game Pass, which is known as the Netflix of games, etc. We'll get into that. And finally, Valve's gaming handheld, that's been rumored for several years now, has finally got a release date. It is called the Steam Deck, and we will talk about what that thing is and what that could mean for portable handhelds. And here today to talk with me about these topics are Blue Bones,
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Blue.
Rexicon Jesse,
I'm sorry. I was still waiting for you to say bones. And you were
Oh.
like, it's blue. And I was like,
I was keeping it short, you know what I mean? It's his show.
and the Will C Blogs.
Hi,
See?
thanks. I was just about to say thanks for having me, and don't forget our sponsor. Have you ever heard of a game called Radio? Why did I screw it up?
You just screwed
Raid
it up. You
Shadow
lost the
Legends.
sponsorship. It's
Raid
over
Shadow
now.
Legends.
Damn. It's
Radio
Raid-
Shadow Legends is not
Radio
Radiohead.
Shack.
the band's the official game.
That's what we're doing.
Definitely sponsored by Radio Shack.
Radio Shack. Oh man. All right. So that's who's joining me today. We can jump right into things if you guys don't mind. First up is our hardware sales document. There's also some software sales stuff in there that we may or may not get into. Depends on where the conversation goes. But the thing that I found the most interesting about this report is for the first time in several years, the Xbox in the US, I want to qualify this, in the US has outpaced both the Switch and the PlayStation 5 in dollar sales. Not units sold, so not physical boxes or game devices sold, but they made more money than both Sony and Nintendo in the month of June for the first time in a very, very long time. Only in America, though, mind you. Like everywhere else, they're still kind of getting blown out in the water. But even so, like America is kind of known as like a very, very big and influential market worldwide. They're kind of a trendsetter and tastemaker in that sense.
And loose cannon.
That uncontrollable a-hole. I don't know. There's tons of adjectives for the country of America.
Yeah.
But to you guys, like, does this say anything about kind of the state of the console wars or Microsoft business practices or any of the other competitors' business practices as they stand right now? Like, I'm curious.
I'm going to jump in and say no.
No. Okay. No,
Hate
go
to
ahead.
be that negative Nancy because I do love Xbox as well. But what was coming out in June that was popping on any console, like referring to? Because the only thing I've noticed in terms of actually going into retail stores, which has been a little bit more, is that Xboxes are on the shelves and they're
Mhm.
more readily available. Switches are. It depends on where you're going in terms of that, but like PlayStations are still impossible to find. They're
Yeah.
like rare. And it's just I can't personally think of a connection that would say, hey, this is the main reason why Xbox is winning in this month specifically. Because like you said, it's only the US. My guess is that people are just like, oh, I can't get a PlayStation. I really want next gen. I might as well go for the Series X because if I'm going for the Series S, unless that's not a flex, that's just if they have the money, go for the X because if I'm going to go for storage anyway, I'm going to be spending damn near the amount of money.
Well, I think both the X and S are combined in terms of these sales numbers. So for Xbox, it's both iterations of that console are being
then-
sold and making up those dollars.
Then it could just be that a lot of people are grabbing the Series S in general too because it's the entry, it's a safe entry, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like especially if, like you're saying, they want a PlayStation 5, they just can't get one yet. They're like, well, I want to get into next gen. I want to do some next gen gaming.
Hmm.
The S is a cheap, easy way to do that, right?
It runs better than the 1S, so might as well.
I think another factor is, when you get into that dilemma, there's availability, right, that we've talked about. But then people who aren't Xbox savvy are learning about Game Pass a lot more. It's becoming a lot more popular.
Mhm.
And that's also a selling point just for the platform in general. I think that's helping these numbers. But again, I don't think it's saying that these consoles are definitely far superior or anything like that um, to the other consoles in its race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about you, Jesse? What's your take on these numbers?
I feel like it's a bit interesting to be like, hey, this counts. This is the best selling system if you count both systems. Which technically Nintendo Switch does the same thing. It has Switch and Switch Lite, and I'm sure those both
And
count as Switch
PlayStation
sales.
also has, a digital version and
Digital and
a
non-digital.
non-digital version that have two different price points. So like they all have multiple models out.
Um, I I think it's neat. I mean, if people are playing more video games, awesome for it. Uh, but I mean, one good month when it's been like being outclassed by, I guess, the Switch and the PlayStation 5. I mean, that's cool, and I'm glad more people are playing games, but I don't think it's gonna. I personally don't think it's a sign of being, really coming up. Like this several more times would be like, oh, okay, people really getting about Xbox now. But just as a one-time thing, that's neat.
No,
Pat
I
on
mean
your
that's a good
back,
point. Yeah,
Microsoft.
it's definitely not enough to like draw like any hard data from, right? Like cuz if
Right.
it is the beginning of a trend, it's the very first of its kind, right? Like it's the first month where this has happened. We would need to see several more months. That makes sense. But I do want to say the fact that it's America, that's where this shows up first. I do think that in and of itself matters a little bit. And correct me if I'm wrong. I do think, uh, like the trends in this country do tend to leak out. Like America, for all of its ills, can and has been super influential.
Yep.
Like different markets definitely value different things, but I don't know. Like I feel like that matters. Like the fact that it was called out by a bunch of different outlets when it happened, I feel like it matters. Like I do think it's a sign of, at the very least, Xbox doing something right, because for them to be trailing so far behind like they have been for so long was a sign of them doing something wrong, right? Like they had to kind of dig themselves out of a hole because of the mistakes that were made early in the last generation. So for them to even catch up at this level says, hey, they have some momentum, like they've been building towards it for a long time. This is kind of a sign that they're on their way. But, it does depend on what everybody else is doing. So, I mean, we can look at some of the other numbers here. No, go ahead, Blue.
I was gonna say, I think a good analogy is when I first started Super Smash Sunday, I wasn't catching no kind of wins, But when I got my very first one, I was like, y'all, I got my first win on stream. Let's go. It was a little hype moment. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't dictate the rest of my career for sure, but I put up a little sparkler, you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what this
Sparkler.
I think that's what this article is saying.
Yeah, it's kind of
And
a sign.
it's a little milestone.
Yes. Yeah.
Y'all are all optimistic. I'm just like, I don't think this is gonna make a difference at the end of their life. Like, it just is what it
Well,
is at this
I'm
point.
not saying it's going to make a difference. I'm saying it exactly what you said. It is what it is, but it is something to look at because of the trends before it.
Uh, the pessimistic person to me is just gonna say that, like, the way I view it is that this is just gonna be a continued flip flop. Eventually, one day Microsoft will come back up. I don't know if it'll be on PlayStation level. That's fine, because PlayStation has been tripping up recently. They have explained that honestly, with their whole situation with the PlayStation 3, which they finally reversed. The fact that they were having issues saying that basically when the internal battery dies on your next gen console, that's it. You pretty much don't have anything. And if you're digital, you're screwed because there's no sort of connection. So it's like, oof. There's no wins that are going. So there's things that are like trailing, and Microsoft are doing like almost the opposite, where it can be, yeah, it can be fixed with an internet connection and stuff. And these are small things that are eventually going to add up into something. But I don't know if it's. I feel like Nintendo's gonna always do its own thing.
Oh yeah.
PlayStation is going to do whatever it can to combat Xbox the best way it knows how, which is to try to give those single player experiences that are top notch. Meanwhile, Microsoft is so much focused on like, okay, we done screwed up. Now we got to offer the best potential thing where one, it helps us in terms of revenue, and two, they notice, wow, it's almost silly not to have an Xbox nowadays, especially with the membership.
Ouch.
Yeah.
As someone that doesn't have an Xbox, I just got called silly.
I have both. It's no difference.
He definitely said almost.
Oh, okay. I almost got called silly.
There you go.
No, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun and say
Jump it.
because Blue knows I've been banging this drum for a very long time at
By yourself.
all the posts in the ground that Microsoft has been setting up to eventually catch up to Sony. Like Sony has been a market leader and has been basically embarrassing them left and right for a very long time. And
That's
Xbox
what
has finally laid all the groundwork to really make a run at that crown. So like, in a sense, it's like, this is a sign that they're going to do the thing that I said they're going to do. So of course I'm kind of like looking at it like, oh, what does this mean? Is this a big deal? Yes, no, maybe so. But either way, I still stand firm to the fact that Microsoft is doing better in terms of consumer relations than Sony. Like Sony,
Sure.
like Will said, continues to kind of misstep because like they are in front and like they feel like they're untouchable in a lot of ways. And so when that happens, they start to kind of just ignore the fans that put them there, and that sucks. So like it would be nice for them to eat some humble pie and kind of get back to business the way they did the previous generation, because
Yep.
that's the Sony that everyone fell in love with and how they kind of got such a huge lead. So I don't know. We can look at some of the sales numbers because a lot of the stuff that's at the top of this list belongs to either both consoles, has some sort of affiliation to Sony, or is just straight up a Sony exclusive, right?
Or Nintendo.
Or did I say? Yeah, that's what I think I might
Yeah.
have meant Nintendo at some point in that sentence.
Yeah.
But the number one selling game was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which is a Sony exclusive, and this is the thing that they're chasing, right? Is the prestige of the exclusive game. Like on top of even a lot of Nintendo franchises, sits a PlayStation exclusive game. So I mean, with all the missteps they're making, like this strategy does still seem to be benefiting them. Any takes on
Viable.
that?
I mean, I think this is exactly why this article is being published, because of that trend. You know what I mean? It's just showing. I think this shows more importance of this milestone that it seems that Microsoft has made by beating these numbers. So yeah, I'm sure Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has deserved this top spot. I haven't played it myself, heard lots of good things. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that.
I think if we're looking at it in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of like what you mentioned, Casey. It's like they're so apologetic because they screwed up Microsoft. They're like, we have to do something. And now just looking at this, I don't really care that Microsoft doesn't have an exclusive anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so looking at this list, yes, a PlayStation exclusive, then you got a multiplat, then you got a Nintendo exclusive, then you had a previous PlayStation 4 exclusive. Like, having this list in front of me just makes me realize it's just like, yes, people are gonna go for whatever experience that they can. However, I don't think exclusivity is gonna be the long game. You know what I mean? You're gonna want to be open-ended. The fact that people prefer using a PC or Steam or something that has crossplay is because of the fact that they have the convenience. So I think that's kind of the approach that Microsoft has, and that's why I'm looking at this and I'm like, yeah, this is really impressive for Sony and Nintendo, but does it help in the end game? I don't know.
I mean, software is
For
usually
Nintendo.
like where the actual battle is fought in like kind of these console sales competitions. But I do want to say the fact that there are so few exclusives for either console, right? Like Ratchet and Clank was probably like the first PlayStation exclusive for a while. I think Returnal was the last one, and I think that was what, like the previous month or 2 months prior.
Yeah.
So like there aren't that many. So if you do have a brand new console and the whole big deal about the console is, hey, look at the exclusives we offer, it's probably going to be a top seller once you do get one, right? Regardless of what it is.
Yeah, of course.
It's just that nobody else kind of has. Well, I mean, Nintendo does, and they do have the market.
I was gonna
So,
say
yeah,
there are 7 games in the top 10 of June that are Nintendo
That's right. That's true.
exclusive, and a whole bunch of them are several years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're still selling this well. But I mean, I don't know. It's the shiny newness of Ratchet and Clank. My guess is Ratchet and Clank will fall out of this very quickly.
Oh yeah, for sure, 1,000%. I don't suspect it'll be there super long.
Yeah, like this is kind of a flash in the pan just because it's so new and it's on a console that's also new and hard to get new experiences on. So, I don't know.
I mean, Miles Morales is still there.
up.
Yeah, well, Breath of the Wild is going to be
still
there.
there. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
But that's the bread and butter for Nintendo. That's something where if you are accustomed, if I was used to playing like big open world games and I'm getting a Nintendo Switch and I'm not like I'm not opposed to family games, but you know what my niche is. That's the number one game you're going to recommend. Why wouldn't you? It'd be silly not to.
I feel you.
Granted, it's not my cup of tea, but you know, I know people who love Zelda, i.e. the nerd that's hosting this podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I got called silly.
No.
I was about to say, like, I'm trying
Don't
not to
Breath
get
of the
called
Wild.
silly today.
Don't have Breath of the Wild, but I have a Switch. Now I'm silly.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Listen, Jesse, you'll get there, and if you like it, you like it. If not, it's not that big of a
Like
deal.
one day you won't be so silly. Don't worry.
No, Jesse will never be silly. However, Casey Wosu definition.
Wow. Shade
I'm ready to
already.
kick off this Discord. Go ahead, do it. Knock me out. Give me a reason to go back to sleep.
Fast Stacks, Aesop Luffy. I see you guys in the chat. What's up? Welcome. All right. So yeah, any other lingering thoughts on like what these sales numbers could mean, do mean? No. All right. We can move.
I think it's a
forward.
bronze achievement unlocked.
Bronze achievement. He combined PlayStation and put the Xbox and said, "Screw it. This is like
You made it to where your competitors were last year. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's the
Rude,
that's
but fair.
pull out the sparklers, everyone."
Okay, so we'll move on to our next topic. Netflix has reported that within the next year, they want to add games to the service. That doesn't mean, sort of these choose your own adventure like experiences that they've been experimenting with, like the Bandersnatch episode of Black Mirror, or the finale of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which were like kind of you use the controller, or you can actually think, you can use a remote or a controller and like choose options while the episode plays out or whatnot. They want actual games, like full on experiences that I'm assuming you just stream the same way you stream your video content. Netflix has I want to say a user base. I forgot what that number is. It's a big number though. Trust me.
It's big.
It's a big ass number.
It's a silly big number.
Yeah, and apparently this service will have no added cost, right? So it's just gonna show up like the same way all your other stuff has. Like, what does that look like to you guys? Like, does
A mistake.
a mistake? Okay, go ahead.
1,000%.
Hear
Listen,
this.
if Google can't do it, if Google cannot do it, we're talking about the people who offer us free services that we use daily, probably tracking us as we speak. Hi, Mr. Google, and having the additional problems, of the fact that they can't stream games. They also offer fiber optics, which I've heard is top class, and yet for some reason they cannot figure out streaming. I don't have any.
Well,
faith in
is it the tech that they couldn't figure out, or
I think
like
it was the studios that.
yeah, it was.
I'm gonna-
It was kind of like the whole marketing push, the positioning of the service is what they couldn't figure out. Like the streaming tech worked.
I don't
But
want to
they-
make a full-blown Stadia conversation, but the thing that I look at it like this is that majority of the people who do not have, I actually know some people who have fiber optics internet, and for some reason struggled in terms of their experience. Laggy. We're talking about playing games like Doom. Doom,
Oh
the
my
original
gosh.
Doom. And they cannot play because the input lag is astronomical. So my thing is this. It's a simple thing to do. Even if you started with games like freaking Sonic or something like that, say they just got the rights for that, that'd be cool. But in reality, you know how it is when you play platformers or any sort of game. Your input lag is a strong factor. If it feels like it's out of this world, you're not going to want to subscribe to it. Maybe if they had games, I remember before Netflix was talking about bringing the Minecraft story mode into it, which
Yeah,
doesn't
like some of the
necessarily,
Telltale games. I think
which is
they might have
which
actually
is like
done that at some point.
I'm sure it is. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying like those things sort of made sense for the medium. However, when you start adding like actual inputs, the fact that it's being sent on the internet to another location and then they have to in a timely manner send it back an image and understand what was going on and whatever the response is, like that's not as easy as it sounds.
Mm.
And I'm just saying if Google can't do it properly, and honestly, I haven't really seen a streaming service that has it that's like really worthwhile where it's like or negligible where you can play a game and not feel it. If Google can't do this, I have no hope for Netflix.
Well, in
I
their release, they didn't say that from my understanding in the article, they didn't say that you were going to be streaming the games like you would with Stadia.
So
It
how else
just
would it be
wants to
done though?
offer it, and it's the example they give is like Apple Arcade, which, if I remember correctly, you download the
Yeah, you do
games.
download games in Apple Arcade.
So if they're doing it that way, if they're doing it streaming, I feel like you're I am with you on the I don't have faith in this, but I'll watch it and see if
Yeah.
it turns into a train wreck or not. But if they are doing it as we're going to host these games, you are going to download them, and then you are going to play them on your system, whatever that is, because I don't know what they would do with, crossplay or, which systems they offer, because it's going to be different for every single one,
Mhm.
PC included. And so that, I don't know. But as that, I feel like that could work really well for them. They have, as Casey said, they have a huge user base.
Mhm.
Um, they mentioned in the article that they're competing directly with things that take up people's time, not just
Yeah.
other movies.
Right.
They, if we're playing Road Company together or whatever, that's us not watching Netflix, and they want
Netflix.
that
Yeah.
piece of it. Um, so I feel like if they have a download service, yeah, that could work really well. I mean, again, depends on what kind of games they could get a handle on.
I think that in that response that makes sense. However, I was thinking in terms of like the most like average of consumers who primarily are going to be watching Netflix from an app on their television, or if they have a smart device, maybe a Google Chromecast, that's cool. That's a big chunk of their market. If you see what they watch on Netflix, most of them are not on something that you can primarily download. Like, yeah, you can download
Yeah,
apps on
that's
your
what I was
TV.
thinking. Like, I
So
can't
that's
imagine that they would prioritize this service as you downloading games because like what would you download those games to?
exactly. And then not only that, that if they did that where let's say just like okay, it'd be like your laptop or your mobile device or something along those lines, even then you're kind of taking away the experience because why if I already have let's say they have a game like Plants vs Zombies, chances are I can get that on my phone. Why would I waste my time to pull off of Netflix? Like that makes no sense. And then additionally, you add the additional thing of like that's a chunk of the audience that really are watching it there. So you're gonna isolate a big like we're talking millions of people who just like I come home, they hit the Netflix button on their remote and just push it. They just go, they vibe. I don't know. It's
But if
weird.
they're already doing that, then Netflix already won in that aspect. They're trying to pull more people, right?
Yeah, I guess
Hmm.
they're not worried about
Yeah. So they're
those
not worried
guys.
about those guys.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, I think one thing to mention is that Netflix is not charging extra for these games.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? For this kind of service. So your subscription is going to stay absolutely the same. They just added on something. I say, hey, try it. Let's see what happens. I really would like them to do more interactive titles like they did with Black Mirror and the Kimmy Schmidt show. I thought those were amazing. I would love to see more of those choose your own adventure styles. But this was kind of like a unexpected twist for me. And again, I think they should give it a shot. See how it works. I do think that they are gonna you're going to see a couple error messages that say games do not play on this device. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's going to be a lot of devices that that we're going to see it doesn't play on. But yeah, I do think that they are going to prioritize consoles. Like personally, I watch Netflix off of my Xbox. Well, I have two different Xboxes, and
Flex.
I mean, my wife got what I got.
Ooh. Bougie.
But yeah, I don't see this as a bad move. I think it can only help them. I don't think it can hurt them at all.
Yeah, I think that console thing, again, PC console, whatever it's on, is gonna make the difference in that. Because, yeah, I agree with you, Blue, that they're not going to be going for if you're watching this on a smart device, and that's probably why they're not charging anything because they want the people like you who are playing it on Xbox. People, me, who my TV is next to my computer, and if I see this is available on Netflix, well, yeah, I'll just log in onto my computer, download that, and play it later. Um, but what games can they get for it?
Yeah,
And are they focusing on console games and not, like you were saying, Will, on like your ability
Arcadey,
to do
mobile.
arcade and mobile games? Because that's just the ouya.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, we don't want
nobody
to
wants
ouya
that.
again.
I think that's what makes me so confused about it though, because if it's going to be exclusive bigger games that you can only get on Netflix, which is weird to think about,
I don't know if
maybe.
they said anything about exclusive.
Well,
games.
I'm saying because they haven't listed anything
But I
of
mean,
terms
we
of what
can
sort of
guess
games
that
they want for it.
Ubisoft will probably be involved, right? Like,
Well,
'cause
Ubisoft's in
they're
everywhere,
always
right?
they're always
gotta put the-
first to a new platform. Like, it doesn't
Y'all
matter
rude.
what
Yeah,
it
they
is.
are.
Gotta make
Ubisoft
their
will
money.
put an Assassin's Creed on it.
y'all
They
rude.
supported the Wii U. They'll do anything.
My
Oh my
my
gosh.
Ubisoft is a
Now
straight up hoe.
now you calling people silly.
See, look.
check with the stenographer. I never said that.
But real quick, I just want to defend some of the streaming stuff because like I know you voiced concerns about like the viability of being able to play a game with the amount of lag that's introduced. I have used Xbox's xCloud service.
That
And
might be the
it
only
works
exception to the
surprisingly
rule
well.
for me. That might be the only exception to the rule for me. Everything else has been very, very
Well,
struggle.
I mean, because Nick and Jack did like a whole Escapist Show episode on them messing around with Stadia, and both of them actually had good experiences. I know Nick has fiber; he likes to brag
Flex.
about it
Yeah,
out in Kansas or whatever. But Jack, he lives in the Midwest as well. He doesn't have fiber, but he also had a good experience with Stadia. So like maybe it is hit or miss for some people, but it can and has worked. Like there are
Yeah.
good reports of these services working.
Of course.
Like Netflix
I might-
is a streaming company. Like that's the entire backbone of their product. I think they have the resources to make it work. Like maybe at the level that Microsoft does, or maybe Google in some of the better areas. So like I'm not super concerned that it's gonna be bad if it is a streaming service, but I'm more interested in the fact that they have such a wide amount of people that they can put this in front of at no extra cost. Because this was the main problem with Stadia, right? Is like we have the infrastructure, but we don't have the library. Like there was not
Yeah.
an easy way to put the games that they had in front of a bunch of people. Netflix is doing it the right way, which is the way Microsoft was copying off of. If Netflix finally woke up and were like, hey, if Microsoft is copying our model for games, why don't we just add games? That sounds like a really big deal to me.
I think it's funny that Game Pass has been called
The
it was like the Netflix of gaming, right?
Yeah.
And now gaming is trying to be on Netflix. I think this is kind of funny.
Right. It's like it's coming full circle. Like, those are
Yeah.
two identical competing platforms if Netflix does what I'm thinking they're going to do, which is add a library of games at no additional cost for what you're paying.
And that is, and I think that's, at least in my household, I know I'm going to try it, right?
yeah.
That's already a win for them because they want me on there more. And that's at the end of the day, if people like it, that's going to be more time on Netflix and they would have accomplished their set out goal. How they're going to make more profit off of this, I'm not 100% sure, but that's not my department, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's going to hurt them by any means. And I think it's going to be interesting to see. It's really going to give.
I'm sorry.
No, you good.
No, I was gonna read. Aesop Luffy says, "Who's gonna put their heart and soul into making a Netflix game?"
Yeah.
No one.
Funnily
I
enough,
would.
Netflix has
Give me that
already
Netflix paycheck, please and thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
Netflix
for
has
the
already
paycheck,
paid
maybe.
to publish some licensed tie-in games. Like there's a Stranger Things game, right?
Yup.
What else did they? There was a tactics game for that Jim Henson Dark Crystal. I reviewed that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Didn't
that
that Western they had also have a game tie-in?
Western. I don't know.
I'm thinking of something else. Never mind.
But there,
Maybe I'm down.
there are a couple, like Netflix has been trying to like they've been doing it from a bunch of angles, right? Like they
Mhm.
make original series based on games. Like there are a couple of those in their
Yeah.
library. They've published games based on the shows in their library, and now they want to bring just actual games as part of their library. Like Netflix has been coveting gaming for a very very long time. Like I do think that they're going to be taking this very seriously, and I think this could shake up like the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like for
Somebody
sure.
quote on that one. Add that to their new Netflix trailer. Shake up the ecosystem.
Netflix goes pretty hard for when they do something new. I mean, when they went from disc-based rentals to streaming,
Right.
that was a big move.
Yeah.
And they
Mhm.
put a lot behind that.
Mhm.
Where I feel like it's easier to kind of chuckle at it when, Google or Amazon or Microsoft try and do something big. And it's like, well, start the stopwatch. Let's see how long this lasts.
Yeah.
Where Google, both as a younger company, but also in the moves that they've made, do tend to put a lot into a big move like this.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I'm just pessimistic. I don't know. All of this just sounds like a bunch of hoopla to me.
You're
Because
being silly, Will.
yo, because
Ooh, he
I
said
am
it.
being silly, but let's keep it a buck. Netflix has not been profitable since they started, right?
Do
They
we know
literally
that?
are yes, they have been hemorrhaging
Yeah,
money
I've
and have
heard.
not been net since they've started.
How is their
Yeah.
stock price so high?
I have no idea. There's a
Because they're in
conspiracy
so
here.
many people's homes.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like you guys mentioned, it's very simple and it's easy. The fact that it's not going to hurt the consumer to give that option there. I just don't quite understand, kind of like what Blue's saying, the end all be all. Like, where is the profit coming? To keep them on Netflix to watch longer? I'm not entirely sure. And the thing is,
isn't the profit coming from us? Like,
but they're
all of
still
us here either
negative.
use
I don't know how it works.
or borrow a Netflix account. Somebody is paying that to them monthly. Like,
Of course.
I mean,
that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money, but does it, at the end of the day, it still hasn't gotten them where they needed to be. That's why they keep pushing into new grounds, because the idea is that they want to be pretty much the virus of streaming services. I know that sounds bad, but they want to be everywhere. They want it to be where if you have it, your mama got it, your daddy got it. It's the whole concept. That's that's how their strategy has been since day one. So I'm not really opposed to them attempting to do this. It leaves a big question mark in my head because, again, unless you have something that's worthwhile, like brand new, that's like, hey, you can only play this on Netflix. What's stopping me from getting it on a more convenient place like the Switch or my phone?
But
or
what's
the
more
computer?
convenient than Netflix is the point I'm making. Like, you have Netflix on probably more than 2 different devices in your house right now. Like, I have Netflix on my phone, on my smart TV, on my console, on my computer. That's all in this room.
Yeah, but let's say the game is a multi-plat game that they get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I prefer my Xbox. I want my achievements, and I want to kind of have, like, if I'm playing with friends and whatnot, we can do an experience like that.
You can do
Or-
that on your Xbox.
That's what I'm saying. I prefer that on my Xbox. Why would I want to play a multi-plat game outside of where I'm comfortable?
Well,
Well, if you
And
don't
you-
have an Xbox,
exactly. Yeah, like
Well,
maybe
then
yes.
you who has an
Yeah.
Xbox would not prefer
I'm
it
just
that way.
saying. I'm
But
just
all
saying,
the people
unless
who don't, this opens
unless
up
you
that door.
don't have like any sort of modern technology, and I mean that in terms like your smartphone that can't handle it because you have an older iPod or iPhone or whatever, or like that, it's just confusing to me to kind of not offer it, but more so it's just like what's the driving factor to make me want to get out of my comfort zone, which is, I'd argue, a strong percentage of the gamers, and just say, all right, I'm gonna do this on Netflix. There has to be an incentive, and I don't see what the incentive is.
I think
'Cause I'm-
okay.
Go ahead. No,
Oh.
you're
I think the incentive would be that similar to Game Pass, the Netflix of gaming, as it is called, that if
there.
I want to play something and it's there, I'm already paying for Netflix.
Yes.
Yes, I'll get Steam achievements if I buy it on Steam. But if I already have Netflix and it's at no extra cost, then yeah, I'll boot up the Netflix app to play that game,
Yeah.
and I'm good. I won't get the Steam cards, and I won't be
Yeah.
able to put them on the marketplace for 3 cents each. All right.
I feel like it's fair to try. And then from there, it's just like, am I going to realistically stick with it? Which I think as most gamers, like, it's like, why go out of your comfort zone? You know what I mean?
I mean,
the
no,
Netflix of gaming is already Game Pass, like you've mentioned.
No,
So
that-
it's like, if
that
it's on
makes
Game
sense.
Pass
Competition.
over there.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know what competition
Fast Axe
does?
is dropping
breeds more
a
crazy
couple
stuff.
numbers for us. Fast Axe went and did the research that we did not do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fast Axe.
200 million
Fast Axe.
subscribers. He says they are now
I
in the
think it's like
profit.
207.
Oh, they're now profitable. Interesting.
Like 200 million. 200 million. That's an a possible install base of 200 million. Like, even if 100 million
Just
of those
even
people
try it.
all have consoles and do not want to stream games off Netflix, the other half of that, or a quarter of that, will be curious enough to try it and might like it because they
True.
don't have consoles and don't care.
Or it
Like,
might be enough.
That's a massive number of people to just put a thing in front of.
I think Ace Sabo Luffy said they will raise subscription prices. That's just life. That was one thing I am afraid of. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? We're not paying extra for this gaming service now. But you know, in a year they're gonna say, "Hey, we raising prices again," and we're gonna be like, "We just gonna pay it."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
And
that's what
we
happened
probably just
last
gonna pay
time,
for
right?
it on the back. Exactly. So when I do need to put an asterisk when I say they're not going to be charging for this.
Well, yeah, at least
Yeah,
not yet. But
Yeah,
in all
not
fairness,
immediately.
if it is a quality service that gives you access to a bunch of
gonna pay
games,
more.
it is
Yeah,
added
maybe.
value, right?
Yeah,
And that's what makes
100%.
Game Pass so competitive, is that they keep adding value to it without kind of taking more money from you, at least not
Yeah.
right away, or at least in a way that's super apparent at the very least. So I don't know.
Okay,
Like,
there
I
it is.
think this is something that Microsoft and Sony, maybe not Nintendo, because Nintendo lives in their own world and they do not
Nintendo
care
in their own
about what's
universe,
going on
just
anywhere
making
else.
They don't
money
worry.
with some mushrooms and shit. You know what I mean?
But
Just
They
messing
cornered the
around.
market. They cornered the
Like,
market.
much
They have it.
more so than when Google started talking about games and when Amazon started talking about games. I think this is something that they might need to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention when you guys are talking about Netflix, or not Netflix, Nintendo's demographic. When back in the day when we were on the old podcast, Fat Stacks was actually with us, and he said they had a thick demographic.
Nope. Well, like
That's
that.
like your
That is a
favorite
sentence I didn't need.
phrase.
That is one of my favorite episodes.
He said they had a thick age gap.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh no. We just lost our Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship right there.
Again,
And
and our
that
Radio
was
Shack
gone when you called
sponsorship.
when you called it radio.
Shut up.
Shadow.
Radio Shack.
Shut up.
Radio Shack Legends. Buy it now on mobile.
All
Use
right,
code
so
Sigma Gears.
any lingering thoughts on the whole Netflix entering games discussion? Can we put
I
that
have
to
a
bed?
I have an important thought, but it should be the last thought because it's only tangentially related, if
All right, go
that's the
for it.
correct word.
I was about to
Oh,
that's
okay.
word.
Blue, have you
That's
played that interactive Bear Grylls game on Netflix? I know you mentioned some of the other ones, but you didn't mention
No,
that
I
one.
haven't. I heard about it though.
You should play it. You
I'm
get to
definitely
watch
gonna check it out.
Bear Grylls get ate by a CGI hippo.
Buy a CGI?
You-
Yes.
If you get a
100%.
real bad
That's the
ending in
good
one
ending.
part, that happens.
No,
If
that's
you
a good
started
ending
with
for
that,
me.
I think I
love
would have started
hippos.
it. What the hell? It's amazing.
I love hippos. That's a good ending for me.
It's real
Um,
silly. It's a fun game though. It's one of those fun interactive.
Oh
games.
heck yes! Thank you, bro.
That does
I'm
sound fun. I
definitely gonna
might
check that out.
Try that out too.
Yeah.
All right, so on to
That's
our
awesome.
final topic for the show. It's been a long time coming, but Valve has finally revealed the Steam Deck.
Whoa! All right,
Steam
sponsorships. Woo-wee!
The deck is steaming.
That's a thick Steam Deck, huh?
Yeah.
Its pricing starts at $399
Mhm.
for like the 64 gig model, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It has sort of slower internals there, but then it has a $530 512 gigabyte model with high-speed NVMe SSD storage, and
That's
a top-of-the-line
$256.
$650 model that has even faster NVMe SSD, and I forget how much. Oh no,
No, 256 was the 530.
is for the 650, and 256
Yeah.
is for the 530 model. Right. So, first impressions: new Valve Switch-like handheld that can play all your Steam games. What are your thoughts?
That's
Anybody
an
pre-order
asterisk that can play all your Steam games. There's a huge number that they cannot.
Ooh.
That's my big issue that I have notes on that I was gonna talk
Yo,
about.
tell them, Jesse.
Yeah,
tell them.
let's get into
Okay.
it.
Okay, first of all, you said long rumored. I had never heard of Steam doing it. And I was
Really?
like, oh, okay.
What?
And like it said it in the article too. It's like people have been talking about this for years. It's like not to me. I've never heard of this, but okay. Okay. So the problem with the Steam Deck is it still does not solve the biggest problem with buying games on Steam, which is you can straight up buy games that do not work. Like, if you buy Resident Evil 5, which was on sale just recently for mad money, if you wanted to buy it and play it, you cannot boot the game. You have to install a fan patch from PCWiki.com or whatever to get it to work. I think it's
Damn.
because it's trying to connect to Microsoft Live or something, which doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think this Fallout 3 does the same thing. You have games like Soul Reaver, and Tomb Raider and other games, some of the older games, which you still want to play. You boot them, they are keyboard only. You cannot use a controller unless
wow.
you get another third-party device like Key to Joy or something like that, or another fan patch in order to make them run. And those things are made for Windows, and this does not run Windows.
There's Linux, right?
Linux.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
Linux based.
Yeah, it's the Steam OS, which is Linux based. And there's also the problem of games that have game breaking bugs within them that you can still buy, like was it Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth?
Right.
You can still buy that, but you have to use a guide to figure out how to get through one section. Omicron, same thing.
That's crazy.
These are issues that it has, and that you have an additional problem of you cannot use third-party support the same way you would on a PC, and you do not have a mouse and keyboard for games that won't allow you to, or that don't use a controller out of the box anymore.
I want to say, and I'm not an advocate for the Steam Deck, but isn't that a problem for like the Steam platform in general? Like all those issues are saying like they can be resolved because you're doing it on a PC and people have built ways to get around them because it's a PC platform. This is kind of a new device that those fixes for those PC issues just wouldn't apply to. So like maybe over time, you'll probably get the same kind of mod community built up around this thing that can handle that. But that's just Steam. Like Steam, the fact that Steam sells broken games is a Steam problem, not necessarily a Steam Deck problem. Like
Oh, yeah,
hardware,
but that's the
I don't
thing.
think is at fault.
Oh,
So
no,
now
not
it's
at all.
a
Hardware
mobile
is-
Steam problem.
Right. It is now the Steam problem you were having on PC. You are now also having it on your Steam
Right, yeah, it
Deck,
just
which
carries
is like-
over.
Yeah, which is a cool piece of tech that, we can, if more people, like, I definitely want to talk about the actual machine too, but that is a big problem that I have with it as a device and why I would be weary of buying it.
Yeah, I don't know who the Steam Deck is trying to be advertised to. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's like I have nothing wrong with the idea of having something portable and having the idea that you can take your library on the go. However, kind of like what Jesse said, if I just bought literally, and I'm going through the process with Steam, I bought Max Payne 1 and 2 because it was like $6. I was like, yeah, I can't even fucking launch it on my regular laptop. I like the whole purpose of it is because I don't have access to an older console, so Steam was the way to go. And now I can't access that, so it's like silly. I think that's something like if for me as a consumer, I'd be like interested to play like older games on the go because it's only 720p. I don't want to hear fans rev up or whatever. I don't think it's fans in there actually, but like I don't want to overstress the system. Like I'd want to just vibe and play like things on the go on the Steam, and that's kind of frustrating to hear because it's like I don't have much like support on it. The only thing I would actually want for it, and this is probably not going to be welcomed for most, but like honestly, let's just say theoretically you can just get it on, you can make it like Linux, just general, get past the OS that's there. Maybe it'd be cool because then you can play
I want to
ROMs.
say like there was talk about the fact that you could essentially do that because it's basically just
They're like a
a
desktop.
mobile
Yeah.
PC.
Yeah,
You can
but
absolutely wipe the hard drive and add your own OS. They
a
were
thousand
mentioning
percent.
that.
Someone's gonna do that simply, and that'd probably be the easiest bet for me because there is a Switch emulator, so technically you can have a Switch, just a bougie ass Switch. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can, but you'll also have a. You're also paying an extra $100.
Yeah.
Gotta flex. Gotta flex. Listen, and the 399 one
emulator.
isn't even great because it's E double MC. Yes, that's crap. That speed sucks. Like at that point, literally as a consumer, if you didn't go NVMe, you're kind of missing out automatically. So it's just like the 400 for me is not even appealing. And then now
Yeah,
we're at the
it's-
$500 range. I'm like, well, I don't want this. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, the $400 range one kind of just seems like they wanted to advertise that it starts at this price point,
Exactly.
and apparently that was the last one to sell out of pre-orders. So like clearly it's the one people are taking because they had no other choice. Everyone wanted the better versions. But I will say, with the Switch OLED being announced and that kind of being a massive disappointment in terms of its feature set, like it not being 4K, it not having any hardware or battery upgrade and whatnot. This seems to be like an answer to that in a hardware sense. I mean, it's also not 4K, like it has a 720p screen, etc. But it is a much more beefy system inside and can run, more demanding games. Like, does that matter? Because
I don't.
apparently it hasn't really affected Switch because of their library of games that are suited to that console. But Steam is saying, hey, take these other games that can run better on this console on the go. Like, is that a good sell to kind of get someone to pick maybe this over the Switch?
I don't want a thick deck. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm good.
the people talk about like, oh, I want a better Switch, but like, and yes, this offers it, but for me personally, no, I don't
Yeah.
need a better Switch. The Switch is what it is, and that's perfectly fine. And again, I have a computer, so if I want something better, I'll just get it for that.
Right.
And again, I might be out of the market because I already have a computer that runs games. For someone who's like, yeah, I'd like something, $500-600, and I can play my stuff on it, might be worth it for them.
So here's a question: if you didn't purchase your Switch and you were in the market, what's more appealing to you, the OLED or just the regular Switch, or this? What do you think you lean towards?
I would still lean towards the Switch.
There you go.
Because the freaking 64 gigs.
Yeah, so
What are you gonna load on there?
that's
The
an arm
OS
in
is
Call
gonna
of Duty.
take up something. Your updates are gonna take up something. Yeah, I'm gonna
that's a
put
laughable amount of storage if you're talking
Yeah,
about downloading stuff off Steam.
right, and you can get a 250 500 gig SD card to slide in there for a decent price, and sure, that's probably worth it. But still, at that point, it's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I would still go for the Switch and kind of, I mean, the Switch has 7 exclusive top 20 selling games.
Oh, we're doing a
So-
throwback.
And also, they're guaranteed to work when I plug them in.
That
So
is
those
true.
are
That's
some
it's
pretty
a
good selling
point.
points.
Speaking of guaranteed to work, these joysticks are not guaranteed to work. Just like the other small joysticks that we see. And what I'm saying is, when these start drifting, you got to turn in the whole console, not the controllers.
Yeah, I am not a fan of the button placement. They're extremely high
Hi.
on this thing.
Yeah. They look mushy as all hell too. I ain't gonna hold you.
I mean, I want to try it out just to see like why
Oh, yeah.
why they possibly thought that was a place you could put buttons. Like, because maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe once I get my hands on it, like it feels fine. But that looks uncomfortable. Like they're just touching like the very top of it. If you guys don't have a picture, I'm sorry. I should have put one up here on the video. But yeah, like the buttons are way too high to the top and edges of this thing. So like Like all the carrying weight is at the top. Like it's like you're holding.
And so the sticks are gonna have a whole bunch of weight on them too.
Yeah, like I don't know how that's supposed to work.
They're going for the community with longer thumbs. Pay attention, guys.
Oh, that's what it is.
It
My
makes
bad,
sense.
my
The,
bad.
the long thumb community. Though there are touchpads underneath, which are at a much more comfortable height. So maybe they're trying to prioritize that as your intended control method because
Oof.
maybe that's how you kind of get around the whole not having a mouse thing. Perhaps is you have like this kind of touchpad, but nah, that doesn't seem like the way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
It
But
looks as
still
big as like
remains
a
to be
Sega Game Gear. You all
It
remember
does.
that?
Wow.
It does.
That's what
Throwback.
I saw.
Jesse, what were you trying to say?
Oh, I was gonna say I will say from what was it, IGN, one of the video reviews I was watching for the Steam Deck, was saying that it does look real wonky, but they thought after using it for a short amount of time that the controls did feel comfortable where they looked out of place, they felt okay. So they
Okay,
might
interesting.
feel nice. And again, they might, but also that's the same thing. Like I hated using a Wii U controller because the analog stick and buttons were opposite, and I was always going like muscle memory was going for the wrong one.
I get that.
And so having things being out instead of down, I mean, that might also be an issue for someone like me. But I don't know. I am curious about that too.
Can we talk about the silly people in marketing that thought calling it very close to male genitalia made sense?
I don't think it sounds
That's
very
free
close
marketing.
to male
No.
genitalia.
It is
I think
deck.
you just have a dirty mind.
No
Steam
way.
Deck right here, bro.
Yeah, it's
That's-
just
that's
Steam
a
Deck
common
from
term.
El Daco.
El Daco? Shut
El
up.
Gato.
Del Taco?
Get your Del Taco.
Oh man.
Listen, all I'm saying is that is a very. I said that when I was in a conference call, and literally, I'm with my parents, and they literally tapped me on my shoulder. They go, "What the hell did you just say?" And I'm like,
That's also a
I was like,
marketing
the Steam.
strategy.
I think it's
guess.
marketing.
Provocative names get
Exact-
words out there. You know what I'm saying?
I
Get
just- I
the news
don't-
out there.
I don't want to buy a Steam Deck. That sounds weird. I
That's
don't
on
feel
you,
comfortable
bro.
saying that.
Yeah.
That just,
That's all
I
you,
mean,
man.
did you buy a Wii or a Wii U? That also sounded weird.
the Wii was not as bad as Steam Deck.
I think the Wii is worse. In all honesty,
You think Wii?
Wii?
I think if you're an
I'm
Oh,
gonna
man, I
go
can't-
play with my Wii. That's not worse than Steam Deck.
Nope. Listen, it could be worse. I could have been playing with me, which is the literal MII. That would have been bad. But no, I think Wii is a little easier than Steam Deck. I also don't think
I'm not
this-
mad at that. I'm not mad at Steam Deck. I mean,
I'm not the intended demographic for this. It clearly shows,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
is perfectly fine. However, at this point, I kind of referring back to what we said earlier. Nintendo's in their own universe. I don't think Nintendo's worried or threatened in this regard because you know what? Again, what are those top 7 games and how old were they? They don't give a shit about Steam Deck. And quite frankly, if we're looking at Steam, how many products have they released that did not work?
Yeah, there was they had the whole was it called a Steam box?
The Steam
The-
machine.
Steam
Good old
machine,
Steam
yeah.
box.
No, they had
Gotta
the
get-
Steam Machine initiative where they basically
That's
like
a hot ass Steam box.
they tried to like push other developers, like hardware makers, to kind of make their own versions of Steam machines. And I think they just provided like the software innards or something to make it like kind of an Android-like platform where you could just have a cheap console that could play your Steam games, right?
They weren't cheap though.
Yeah, they weren't exactly cheap.
I mean, yeah, they
that
weren't
was
cheap.
that was their marketing push. They did absolutely say that, and then Alienware came out with their ones, and they were not cheap. And it was like, I'll just buy a
Yeah, I'll
console
just get
or
PC
build a
or console
computer.
at this point.
Yeah,
not-
But I think they're trying to do the same thing here. I want to say like they also put the call out to say like, hey, you other developers, you can also make Steam decks. Like have at it, right?
That's
Like this is their version, but like I think they're fully supportive of just anyone can make one of these portable things and we'll just provide you the software that puts Steam on it. And I think that's what they're after, the same way Microsoft is trying to push Game Pass on whatever platform you're playing on.
I feel like I've been anti-competitive, like anti-competition, which is not the message I'm giving across here. am all for it because then it usually results in something better for the consumer. However, I'd be lying if I told you I think the Steam Deck is an actual competitor. You know what I mean? I'd be lying if I told you that I think Netflix is going to be the massive market. They're going to make a massive market in it. I see that their decision to put games on their platform is the equivalent of 3D glasses when you had to buy a TV. It was a thing. It existed.
You think
People
it's
tried
just a
it.
fad and it'll...
Yeah, I think it'll be there, and maybe in some form it'll stay a little bit longer than in some sort of fashion, but it won't be the traditional form of gaming, which is fine. Everything's going to be moving in that direction. Everyone's going to continue to either copy or do something where they can profit off of it. But Netflix knows for a fact that they've made most of their money for being innovative and taking bigger risk. So if this works in their favor, perfect. If the Steam Deck works in their favor, sure. Just not for me though.
So you don't want to be a hater, essentially. Like you don't wish it to fail, but I want to ask, do you think it will fail? Like, do you think this will be successful, or do you think it will fail?
No, I think the Steam Deck will exist and then for a little bit and then kind of just fade into the existence, kind of like Stadia is going to in its near future. And I think Netflix is going to have more success in terms of their decisions to have something in there. I just don't think it'll be the major big thing. Like I think people always gravitate towards their personal device. And I think that's the problem. Netflix has so many devices, but we're creatures of comfort. So if you like playing on your Xbox because that controller fits you well, fine. If you like the PS5 or whatever, the PS4, and just because of the boomerang ass controller, cool, whatever. Like there's multiple reasons. I'm not going to get into every single aspect of it, but that's where I think it's like, oof. I don't know. Pulling people out of their comfort zone is never really a win in terms of strategy.
Okay. I mean, just to push back a little bit on that.
Here he goes.
Like you're saying, you're pulling people out of their comfort zones, but like this is a copy of another thing that has been successful, the Switch, right? So I mean, you don't get Switch games, but if you are primarily playing on PC, like maybe you buy a lot of indie games, a lot of low resource intensive games, like maybe you're not playing your big first person shooters on this thing, but all your your indie titles you load up on this to go out of the house with because you don't like Nintendo games or you don't have a Switch or something. That I mean, there's nothing out of your comfort there. Like you're taking a thing that you have and are comfortable with at home out of the house the same way everyone who has a Switch has been doing.
Well, my comfortability lies somewhere different because nowadays, kind of like Netflix, if you don't have a Switch in the household, I've owned 3 Switches, guys. All right, like I know the motions. You know what I mean? It's impossible for most people. It's very rare where you come across somebody or a household where there isn't a Nintendo Switch. So I feel like that market is already taken care of. They're appealing to something slightly different, but kind of what Jesse said, which didn't help the thing for me. It's just like the fact that I have to troubleshoot, the fact that I have to get mods for certain things, and honestly, if I'm playing games on the go, I'm not playing a heavier game, and chances are that's already on the Switch, which is at a very cheaper price point, and I'm already I'm more comfortable with buying another Switch than buying this. I'd rather buy the OLED than buy this. I don't need to, but I'm just saying like that's more my comfort because
Okay, hold on.
Oh, here we go.
Because the Switch has been known as a great console for indies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you're buying like the great games that Switch is known for, you're usually paying like $60-$50 for each of those games because Nintendo never drops the prices of any
I was
of their
about to say
first-party
never on sale.
games.
Yep.
Right? So like sure, maybe the entry point is lower than the Steam Deck, but when a Steam sale comes around, you can load up a ton of high quality games for like nothing. So
Half
like
of them.
I feel like that value proposition can balance out if this thing takes off.
The value for sure. You know how Steam sales, you can get games to pennies to the dollar sometimes. It really, really depends on how old the game is and what's going on. The thing is that if I'm playing most of those indie games, like I'm not gonna lie, all of the games that even though I don't have a Switch anymore, all the games I own are digital. So if I'm gonna buy a Switch right now, I have Smash, I have Super Mario Odyssey, I have Stardew Valley, Minecraft, like I have all the stuff I need there. So chances are, if I already have that device on the go, unless I'm going on a specific road trip, which is very, very like niche,
Mhm.
I don't foresee me needing to take a heavier game system or that has that heavier like library there because I already have a library that's established. And then
That
on
makes
top
sense,
of that, this doesn't the price point throws me off entirely because I don't one I can't I would have to see how it was in my hands because like I said, unless I'm playing like this, playing Thumb Wars on this thing, I'm not gonna have a great time. You know that for a fact. And the I just also need to see ventilation. That's the thing too. If this thing gets hot, if this thing
there's
gets
there's a diagram in this
yeah, but you
article that
know how it
shows like
is.
a fan at the very top. So
You
maybe
know
that
how it
works.
is. You know, you start a game, they advertise so and so, and then you get it, and I'm like, wow, I have something melting in my hand. Like, what happens to when it actually launches is going to be a different ball game. But
Yeah. So we'll wait till October for that. But
I'm gonna let the people get it. That's what happened with Stadia. Everyone was telling me, "Oh, buy a Stadia" when it was coming out. I'm like, I
but
want to
you
see what happens
you
first.
can't buy a Stadia.
Like the Chromecast Pro Premier Edition.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's what I mean.
Okay, I get what you're saying now.
I want to see the
Wow.
failure first.
But Jesse Blue, what are you guys' takes on the Steam Deck's chances of success? Yay or nay?
Or
Yeah, I think it really comes down to what Jesse mentioned earlier. If you have to troubleshoot every piece of software individually, or obviously there's going to be some that works, but if there's a chance that you have to troubleshoot something and it may not work because some genius out there hasn't created the patch yet, um, I think that's gonna tank it before it even gets started. Um, I hope that's not the case, but I think that's what's gonna happen. I think too many people are not going to be patient enough for these patches that have to be fan made or user made,
Mhm.
Which is, I think that's pretty irresponsible for Steam in general. And that's going into more, but yeah, I think it's pretty irresponsible to just give you another place to have broken games.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
If I I mean, I'm gonna say I agree, even though a big part of what you were saying is what
It's
I
what
was
you
saying.
said
So of
already.
course, I agree. But
Yeah.
yeah, if the failure rate of what I've experienced on Steam, which noted is still not so high that I don't use Steam, I enjoy
Right,
Steam.
right.
It's a great platform. But if the failure rate of games that I purchase and try to play on Steam, uh, was as high as it is, and then Nintendo or another company was like, but you could experience that with our hardware, I would not buy it because I don't trust it.
That makes sense.
Okay.
But
And
I
then
want it to be a success. I want a healthy market. I want lots of competition. I love the idea, but they have to fix that base problem that
mhm.
is eroding them in wherever they go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a Steam problem, not necessarily a Steam Deck problem,
Yeah.
and Steam needs to get on that problem. Makes
Here's
sense.
the
Yeah.
bigger question: which console has more weeb shit?
Probably
Oh,
Steam.
definitely the PC.
Steam.
I just
Yeah,
want.
Steam.
I just want.
Yeah.
So maybe I
100%.
need to get a
So
Steam
much.
Yeah,
Deck just to support the
play
community.
straight up porn on your Steam Deck. Why not?
Yeah, easily.
On the
Hold on
go.
now.
Like on public
Wow.
transportation.
Now
Like,
you making some moves.
okay, so I think that will wrap up our Steam Deck conversation.
Hey,
I'm gonna
yo.
keep saying that for
Ah.
Will.
Will's
It gets
take.
me. So, it makes me so uncomfortable. It's like you're saying the word moist.
Oh my goodness.
Will.
But
I'm a child. Leave me alone.
But I want to thank
nothing-
my three
okay.
guests for joining me today, as well as everyone in the chat. Really appreciate it. Blue, where can people find you if they're looking for your content on the internet?
If you search BLUB0NES on most social media platforms, you'll find this guy right here. That's it.
Anything coming up you want to check out now?
Oh, you just asking where I found. Yeah, no. Later today, we're doing some Super Smash on the Open
right,
Party
yeah,
channel.
yeah.
That's gonna be dope. Wednesday, I play over Wednesdays. And that's where we play Overwatch, and we've been doing really good. Definitely come through on that. And then Free for All Fridays. This Friday was cut a little bit short, but next Friday we're expecting a whole bunch of folks to jump back in and have a great time again on the Open Party. So that's where you're gonna find me.
Sweet. Jesse, how about you? Where can people find you and your stuff on the internet?
Yeah, Twitter, Reddit, wherever. It's at Rexicon Jesse. Instagram, it's there. That's my name everywhere. And you can check me out on my streams over at twitch.tv/Rexicon Jesse. And I'll be playing tomorrow morning some more Phantasy Star 2 for the next behind schedule. And then you can go to my YouTube, and I have a playlist of all the videos I've done for reviews that I do over for The Escapist with behind schedule and 3-minute review. So you can check out all those there. And our podcast came out of playing D&D that Casey's on.
Adventure.
Where are you in
9.
relation to me? You're there. I think I might be pointing the right way. I gotta wait for the delay. Nope, I was on the wrong side. You're over there.
You were right the first time.
With Jack, Yahtzee, and Amy. So you can check that out at escapist.com, and it'll also be on YouTube for everybody sometime next week, too.
Next week I think it drops there. But you can watch it right now on the Escapist Magazine website.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the escapistmagazine.com? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what it is?
Escapist.
Yeah,
It's
Escapist
Wow.
escapistmagazine.com.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Will, how about you? Where can people find you and your works on the internet?
I think I'm Will C Blogs. If you Google me, you will see a lot of things. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google Plus, if that's still a thing.
I don't think that's still a thing.
No, that is not a thing.
I'm trying to just you're messing up the plug.
Google cut before Stadia.
Oh God! So it's just everything's gonna fall down from Google, from at least in terms of Stadia. All right, cool. So yeah, no, I don't know when I'm gonna be doing. I know I want to start back up the podcast. This has happened multiple times just because work, and then now I'm moving to North Carolina, so I'm gonna be moving a little south in the next couple of weeks. But I do know I have a new review that's coming up. So check on that. I also have another review doing for The Escapist. And if you I randomly stream on Twitch. If you follow me on Twitter, it's always there. But if you just follow me on Twitch, do not pay for anything, please. Just if you want to hear me argue and yell with people, just hit the little follow button. And then if you want to join, we always just let people join up. It's rare and it's random, but Rocket League, Fortnite, any esports game, we're pretty much on it. So there's that.
Nice. As always, you guys can follow me at SigmaGears9 on Twitch and Twitter. Like Blue said, later today we'll be on the Open Party channel for Super Smash Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come through and get educated on how to smash properly.
Oh my God. This episode is non-PG, all right? We need to let everyone know. When they're seeing this and they're listening to it, like, wow, they were talking some dirty stuff. This is crazy.
Yeah, Blue just dropped the link in the chat. So click on that and hit follow as soon as this show is over. Also,
which is now, right?
It's pretty much now. I was gonna try to plug whatever else is coming up next. I should also have a new 3-minute review in the next coming week, I want to say. But also, don't forget to check out the new podcast that I'm on with Nick Calandra, our editor-in-chief, as well as Marty Sleva, called The Breakout. That's on all your favorite podcast services. I want to say there are 3 episodes out now already, and they are fun. We talk about more personal things as well as like tangential gaming related stories and whatnot. So it's been a fun time. And also A Marvelous Escape, the last episode for Loki just dropped. That was a good discussion. A very interesting episode there. And is there anything left that I need to plug? Probably not. Either way, just follow Twitter and you'll see what the hell I'm on. If I remember to post about it, because oftentimes I also forget. But that's going to do it for episode 33. Thanks to my hosts. Thanks to everybody in the chat. See you next time. Bye. Peace. Live long, prosper.
Everybody, thank you.